Hello and welcome to this video. Today we will be painting a face. It will be a pure experiment, so we will see if it works or if it just crashes totally. I have been asked by one of my followers if I could do a very pale face, not sickly skin, but just pale. So this will be an experiment for me as well as you. The first thing I will be doing will be actually shading it blue with a Dragonhof nightshade actually from Citadel. It's just one of their normal wash range. And what I have been doing is thinning it with a airbrush thinner to make it more susceptible to being worked around the miniature and not staining as much, or as fast at least. The miniature has been primed in a normal white with an airbrush before, so this will go over a pure white. As you can see, he already looks strange, but we will see if we can do something interesting in the next stage. But for now, he will just have to dry, and then we can continue working. And now we're back. The Dragonhof nightshade is now dry, and we will be ready to put some lighter colors on him to actually make him a little more pale. For that I will be using palette witch flesh from Citadel. You can use any sort of pale skin color that you want to, so you're not necessarily bound by using the product from Citadel if you use another brand. I've just thinned it a little bit with water so we can get some nice, smooth and transparent layers. So let's see if we can start painting slowly and easily on it. You shouldn't be afraid to do this in many thin layers. You should always remember that it's much better to make many transparent layer than one too heavy layer, as it is very hard to redo it unless you want to repaint the entire face. Of course, you should not be afraid to make mistakes, that you can always put more layers of paint on it or completely remove it and start over. It's one of the more fortunate things about this hobby is that we can always remove all the paint and start over again. Here we go, slowly building up. As we can see here, just in the highest areas of the miniature, and only leaving the darker blue in the recesses. There we go, covering his ear a little bit. Perfect. And then we just work it in. And then we just continue doing that until we have the amount of layers that we want. And he has achieved the paleness that we want. And this one will look interesting because he doesn't have any facial hair. You could of course paint eyebrows on him. I will not, because I will leave it as is when it reaches that state. Normally I would paint eyebrows on them because it can look a little weird without the eyebrows. Because if you look at a normal person,
even though they're bald, they will most likely tend to have eyebrows.
And there we go. We are doing some good progress. Now I'll just leave this to dry, and before I get back, I will just paint all the metal parts of his neck and the back of his head. It's not very interesting. You won't really learn anything from this. It's just... Now we are back again and ready for the next set of highlights. Here we will just be mixing the palette witch flesh with a white to create another layer of highlights. Don't really need this if you're just doing a very simple face, but if you're aiming for a bit higher level, it is always nice with more highlights, as it really marks out the different parts of the face more clearly. And it's a good exercise for everybody to be better painters. So let's slowly keep going through the face. To do this is a very fast process, since it's a very tiny area. If you're doing a large model with more skin, it will consume more time. So if you're painting a large army, you might not have the time for this, and that is perfectly fine. You should always consider what it is that you're using the miniature for. If you're painting 30 or 40 Space Marines with these kind of faces, it will take time. But if you're painting 100 naked miniatures covered entirely in this kind of skin, it will take an enormous amount of time, and you might consider an easier way to do it and just use some kind of contrast color with simple highlights. But if you have the time and want to spend it, you can make some very, very great results. Just continuing adding more and more highlights to each miniature. There we go, we'll almost be done with this part. Just hitting the uppermost areas with an almost white. Just to make it pop that bit extra. And then we are almost done with the face. Then we just need the hardest part. And that is actually the eyes and the pupils. That is without a doubt what most people have trouble with when painting faces. Me as well. But there's only one way to get better. That is practice, practice, and more practice. I will be using a little cheat, and you should too. At least if you have a lot of faces to go through. And there we go. Then we're done with the flesh color itself. I will just let everything dry, and then we will be back to paint some eyes. So now I have finished the other areas of the face or the head. So the armor parts, the wires going in and out of his face and neck. So now I also finished the mouth with the teeth and the little electrode he has on top of his forehead. So now we just need the hard part, and that is trying to paint the eyes. There's no paint on the brush yet, but we will try and see if we can actually capture it on camera this time. Last time I tried, I failed miserably and had to do it off camera, because it is very, very hard to capture it on camera, hitting such a tiny area. Trying to talk while doing it and not messing up, but we can only do our best and then correct our mistakes afterwards. And again, don't be afraid to make mistakes, as it can be corrected with a little paint. And that is one of the things you should always remember when painting. You should always be brave and push yourself, and don't concern yourself with making mistakes, because that is how most of us learn, and we can always correct them later. And there we go. That's at least part of it. Now we just need the hard part, and that is the pupil of the eye. But for that we will just need to let the paint dry a little bit, and in the meantime we can just correct some of the mistakes we made for hitting not correctly where we're supposed to. And I'll just go over it with the shade to correct some of the mistakes around the white parts of the eye. And again, painting eyes takes a lot of practice, so don't be afraid to make mistakes. And it's a good idea to frame the eyes again with a shade to make the eyes stand out and make a good transition to make it look a little more natural. Because if we look at our own eyes, there's always a lot of shade around them. And that eliminates the thing that you sometimes see on miniatures, where they have what could be called crazy eyes. There we go. Let's see if we can get a proper close-up. We see right now his eyes looks very scary because they are all white. For zombies or something like that, that would be good. But for a Space Marine head like this, actually a JGN.Studios head, it wouldn't really work. And now we will do a little cheat step. We will be using a pen for the pupil of the eyes. It is easier than doing it with paint. This is a Pigma Micron 005. The 005 is actually the tip of the head and how big it is. And this is a very tiny head. So let's just see if we can hit the eyes. This will also take some practice, so you can actually get the dots to go where you want them to, and make sure that you have a very steady hand for this, because if you make it wrong, you're going to have to repaint the eye
again I'm a little quiet, because this step is actually pretty hard. We're getting a little crazy eye here, but again you can fix it with more paint. Let's just see if we can get the camera to focus. It looks weird on the camera, but we will try to make some better pictures when we're done. And that's it. I will just touch up the paint, and then I will make some photographs, and then you can see the finished result. And that is actually more or less how you paint a pale face. I am pleased enough with the skin color. So thank you for watching this video. If you like it, please subscribe, like the video. If you do not like it, feel free to say so in the comment. If you want me to cover any other subjects or skin colors or whatever you want me to make videos on, feel free to put it in the comments. I do not know what you're thinking otherwise. So I'll see you in the next video. Bye bye.